healing crystals, skincare routines, knitting a sweater, fitting in jeans. With Katie and Sarah, no need to worry, you're on a lady journey.
And welcome to Lady Journey, everyone. Welcome. I am so thrilled today because we have an incredible guest, Ely Kreimendahl, and we have been trying to get you on the podcast forever. You're doing a million things. You have a show, you have a podcast, you're a mom of two, and you're also a former therapist, and now you're here with us today.
I'm here. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Former,
Absolutely.
as in you don't want to do it anymore.
Well, okay. So I still do a little bit of therapy as my
Side
day job.
hustle.
Yes. And it's kind of shifted. Like it used to be my full-time job. Now it's like 2 days a week.
Gotcha.
And I haven't taken new patients in like 2 years. So I just have a group of people I've seen
That you
literally
can
forever.
handle. Yes.
And I know them, and it's like, but I can't take new people anymore because I can't.
Yes.
I can't emotionally, but I love the people I work with, and it's like basically the best day job ever because I've been doing it forever and it's meaningful. And
So wonderul. I would love for you to be my therapist. I am struggling
Would you?
to find someone. I'm like, it's like finding a new therapist also on a budget. You're like, oh, just a lesser of two evils. I'm like, do I take the 14-year-old woman who's like, I don't know. And now I'm with a girl now who's giving me, she's, all of my problems are self-created from stand-up. And so she's just like, well, maybe you should just get a job. I'm like,
No.
okay.
Wait,
Okay.
Did your therapist say that to you?
She did, but I think she just doesn't understand. I try to like break it down.
I actually think there should be a separate because my therapist back in Houston, I had an epic bomb, and she was like, well, maybe next time you go up there. And I was like, wait, are you giving advice on handling the situation where you're like, have you ever noticed that with like self-help or like social media accounts telling you how to get your numbers up, but then you're like, this only applies to like people that are running like a business with a item that they're selling. And
Yes,
you're
for
like, dealing
sure.
with art is a little bit different.
You need a therapist who understands what it's like to be an artist.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
I cannot stress
It's
that
important.
enough because both of those examples you just gave are horrifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just truly horrifying.
You're fired.
I just took it as a grant. I thought she was sweet, and it was almost like advice that my mom would have given me. Like, just go up there and like shimmy
Just
your
dazzle them with your
shoulders.
personality. And you're like, what?
I know, but then why? Why are you paying your therapist to give you
Right.
mom advice?
Yes.
Although I do have to say, I was like, actually, if I got a job, then this would none of these problems would happen. I should just get out of stand up and go into the real world and then have a different set of problems. And then I could just go to the same therapist.
Yeah.
Oh
And then
my
she's like, you
God.
should do stand up.
Yeah. You should get out there and try for your dreams.
Yeah.
Now, how did you kind of go from therapy? You were kind of in an arts background, and then you decided you kind of went on your own journey to go into the arts. What
I went
was
on
that like?
such a journey. I mean, I was in the arts. Like I went to school for film and TV, and then I moved here, and I was like waitressing and writing and performing and stuff. And
cool.
then, and that was also drinking a lot. I was like really embracing my alcoholism in my early 20s and early to mid, and then I just kind of like panicked and felt like I needed health insurance and stability. I was getting a lot of family pressure, and I was an alcoholic, and I was like, you know what'll fix me? Graduate school in San Francisco.
Oh my gosh.
So I
The dream.
the dream. And so I applied like literally in a fugue state. Like I still can't believe I got into these therapy programs. I moved to San Francisco. I became a therapist. Through the process of that graduate program, I realized I was an alcoholic. I got sober.
Okay.
And then I was a full-time therapist for a long time. I was still writing and performing, but I was like trying to force myself into being okay with it being a hobby. Because I was like, that's the thing to do. Like now you have this career. Now you have $150K in student loans. Yeah. And then over the years, I just like, I was getting like more and more existentially bereft and couldn't really deny that wasn't okay with me.
Yes.
And then I had kids. I had my first kid, and I had this like really powerful experience of like, if I am like replete with regret and she feels that and sees that, that's like deeply damaging, and I can't tolerate it. And that's what like forced me to be like, okay, no, I'm an artist. I'm going to start this transition of like at least doing both and ultimately moving into like trying to, you know, I mean, who actually gets to be like a full-time writer and comedian, but you know what I mean? Like
Yes, just
moving
going
toward,
for it.
moving
The feeling
toward.
of knowing that you went for it, I think is so
Yeah.
priceless.
Yeah, so
Oh,
that's what happened.
wonderful. And here you are.
Here I am.
Yeah, you're doing it. You're doing it well too.
Oh,
Yes.
thanks.
And now I see you have a show called, is Shame Spiral is the podcast or is that the show? Gay Shame is the show.
Yeah, they're both shame.
I love them. They're both shame oriented. Yes.
My podcast is called Shame Spiral.
Yes.
And my monthly show is called Gay Shame.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love
I
this.
had a mini shame spiral when I just completely forgot to do your
Oh my God.
It was very meta.
That.
Yes.
That I was like, can we
Yeah.
use this one? Because it reminded me of my drinking days of being like this. Oh my God, I completely slept through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
then
totally
forgot.
It's so funny though, because it's like, when you just said that, like I had completely erased that happened.
Yeah.
But of course, when you're the one who did it, you're like, whew, like
You feel like
what
that's
shame
all I
is
was
so,
thinking about.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
exactly.
So you perpetuate it within your own self.
Yes. But it is kind of a fun thing to look back on hindsight.
True. I remember once
Yeah.
I woke up and I thought that my car had been stolen, you know, from drinking.
Yeah.
And then turned out it was just 3 blocks away where I had parked.
Yep.
And that feeling, the panic feeling,
yeah.
it's just the beginning. It's the tip of the iceberg of all day being like, what's wrong with me?
Oh yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I'm a piece of shit. And that's why all of these things are happening. It's
Yes.
directly stemming from my shitness, you
Yes.
know?
No, do you like when you do like work on shame, do you like Brene Brown and kind of her approach to the resilience?
I don't not like Brene Brown, but I
Okay.
also, it's a little, I'm like scared to say this out loud because Brene Brown, you're wonderful, but it's a little precious for me. It's
That's
a
fine.
little,
Okay. Yeah.
Like,
no, I think that's a nuanced take on it.
yeah, I just need it with some grit or I can't sit and listen. And that is my shit. Like I really own that. It's because like I have a hard time with vulnerability when people are trying to be like really like earnest with the self-care talk with me. I just want to vomit, you know? So no, I need it a little bit in a different package than Brene Brown, but I respect her work.
She's a brand. She's
She's a
truly a
brand.
brand.
I'm like that with Taylor Swift, and she has a hardcore fan base.
Yeah.
So
And
they
And hopefully
make me
we're
scared.
triggering them. Push us up to the top of the algorithm, girls.
But you're like, admire her artistry, just never
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, not for you.
Not for me. Yeah.
I've never listened to Taylor Swift.
I
I was in a cab recently, Uber, and
she has some good stuff.
the guy was full playlist. I love this guy. He was answering the phone to his wife. He's just singing along. I was in the back with my boyfriend. We were like, is this the best? This is the best lift we've ever taken. This guy is full of joy.
Living his best
He's
life.
like, tell the kids I said goodnight. Like, wonderful. And I really enjoyed it. I was like, that's the only time that you should hear Taylor Swift, when a man is trying to make you not feel threatened.
Yes.
When you're in his space.
I could see feeling very receptive to it in that moment.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it feels like I'm at the concert you go to the movie theater for.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like you're not going to run into too many men that are listening to Taylor Swift.
Openly.
Openly.
Yeah.
Openly.
Openly.
Yeah.
I read Brene's Shame Resilience book. I forget which one it's called, but we did talk about it on here because I felt like I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like changing my life in a way that I'm at least able to put a name to these feelings that are so taboo.
Yeah.
And inspire so much for me, like anxiety of like judgment and social anxiety, you know? Because I feel like it's totally self-created in a way too, like especially times I've had social anxiety in my life where it's like I feel nervous, I go into a space and then I'm acting anxious and then I feel ashamed and then it just
Yep.
spirals. It's a shame spiral and it goes all the way down to the end to the point where I'm like, and now I'm in the corner staring. And of course people think I'm weird because I'm like, hi, is it okay that I'm in here? It's like, yes, it's the doctor's office.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so true. I think about that all the time, the recursive nature of it. Because if you're in that situation and you're thinking like, I'm so weird, I'm so anxious, the whole night then becomes about feeling weird and anxious.
Yeah.
There's nothing to talk about because like when you're like, I have nothing to talk to these people about, it's like, no, the cupboard is bare because it's just filled with anxiety.
Yes.
And it does just self-perpetuate.
My gosh. I've been
Then
trying.
you-
Sorry.
Well, then in those moments, then you just start sharing secrets about your life. To strangers.
Killed a man.
Because you just need to have something. You're like digging out of the bin. Yeah.
That's when I start accidentally lying, which is what we talked about, where people are like, have you seen this movie? I'm like, 100%.
Oh my God,
favorite.
Yes.
Yeah. The next thing you know, you've told people you're in 9/11. Yeah. And,
You need something to offer.
yeah.
Some kind
I'm
of
doing
exchange.
like a little bit of a grounding technique right now where I have my crystals and then I just go to the pocket and hold the crystal, and it's not really working, but it's something.
Yes.
Maybe something will come of it.
Nice.
Now, what made you go into going into a podcast about shame? Was it something that you dealt with a lot and that you wanted to deal with it and hear other people's stories?
I think it's that, I mean, I've always been sort of inclined toward shame and shame spiraling, like that feeling of just like there's something wrong with me, there's something unfixable, like very piece of shit at the center of the universe kind of thing.
From childhood?
Always.
Yes, it's always been there. Yeah.
Yeah. And part of it is like I have OCD, and I think that there's some connection around that because I didn't know what I had OCD until I was a
people
full
make
adult.
you feel weird about OCD. Like there was a quote in a David Sedaris book that I really enjoyed, and it's also quite funny because he had OCD, and he would go to, like, when he was a kid, like be with his mom's friends or something, and they would comment about how he had always had to like fix things, and they would make him feel weird about it.
Yeah.
But yet later on, when he started smoking, everybody's totally cool with that.
Yeah.
And you're like, why is it that we're fine with somebody poisoning their body and doing a weird habit, even though I like smoking? Like, totally think it's cool. But like, just let people fidget.
Yeah.
Why is that affecting you? And why are you making someone feel bad about being a fidgeter at that time?
So much
Totally.
projection onto kids that have these issues.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah. And mine was more, I have what they call it pure O. So it's
Okay.
like just thoughts.
You're ruminating.
Ruminating
right?
on really dark
Yes.
things.
Okay.
And a lot of them are orbiting around the idea that if they're true about me, I'm a literal monster.
Yeah.
So that was all like completely secret for my whole life until I like got that diagnosis, and I was like, oh, I can start like thinking, like talking about this and whatever. So, and then whatever other reasons, shame. But yeah, I just think that like, I guess what inspired me to do it is like it being a secret, I think is just so, it just compounds the damage, you know?
Yeah.
Shame in general. So I'm like, I think it's really meaningful to like talk about it, but also I thought like this is the more strategic, like sadistic part of me is I was like, well, I have this therapy background. Like, I bet I can like use my skills to get comedians to like talk about their shame in a really like deep way.
Yes.
And it can be playful, which then is like more digestible and enjoyable to listen to, like
Yes.
all of it together.
Well,
I love that. Yeah.
always talk about how fun it is. We've learned the terminology like maladaptive daydreaming and how wild that can get, and how it is embarrassing that you're going down such deep rabbit holes in your mind of a life that you've given yourself.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm a zoologist. I'm going to zoology school. I'm a doctor of pandas.
Wait, I haven't heard that term, maladaptive daydreaming.
Well, so
I can
it's on-
imagine.
There's like
but-
a whole Reddit thread, and I kind of found it through also TikTok. So who knows what the validity of it? But I do feel like some of the memes were so funny to me. Of like, this is like where you've created a relationship with somebody in your head, and you've already have accused them of cheating 20 years down the line.
Yes.
And then
okay.
you revel in the fact of enjoying, like putting cheater on their garage.
Yeah. Yes.
That's so fascinating.
And then you kind of use it to like dissociate when you're in like any type of situation that you don't want to be in. You're like, well, now I'm planning my wedding again in my own mind and living the fantasy of my special day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It protects you from something, I'm sure, in that moment.
Yeah. Or like, I almost think it's very similar to intrusive thoughts.
Yeah.
Which are always so disturbing. And then that feels like you're like, am I a bad person for having these thoughts right now? Like,
yeah.
I'm thinking about what's the most fucked up thing I can do in this scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's
and those are
totally-
funny to
yes.
me when people are willing to share that in a safe space.
Me too.
Can I share one? I went to Mike's. I did actually share this with Mike. I went to Mike is my boyfriend.
Okay.
I went to his album recording, and I opened for him. So this is in Nashville. After the album recording, I had not drank in like months. And I had also been doing like my sugar detox at the time, which is a maladaptive eating pattern that I go on. So I hadn't eaten anything. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to have just a little vodka soda to relax. The waitress was like, you want a double? I was like, okay. I had a double vodka soda. I'm sitting there. He's doing the taping. I'm in the front. I was having the most like intense, intrusive thoughts of like, what if I just stand up and scream the F word?
Oh my God.
And I was like, I have to stay present in the moment because it feels like it's about to happen. It's
coming
happening.
along.
I was like, no. And I told him that later and we were just cracking up. I'm also like, I'm sitting with his mother.
Oh, Jesus.
Or like, what's something that would really embarrass him if you tried to like try to get your jokes up there?
I propose. Oh my gosh. So
Intrusive thoughts are terrifying.
they're
They
wild.
are, but I do feel like if you can get people to share these like really funny, intimate thoughts in a safe space with no judgment, that's why like 12-step programs are actually pretty
it
interesting.
takes the sting out of it.
It takes the sting
And
out.
it makes you feel normal again. Yeah.
And being able to laugh at it, it's kind of like what we were just talking about before we started recording. Like if you're telling someone your shame and the context is very like, I hear you and I witness you, like that's its own thing. But if you tell someone like the worst fucking thing and you are laughing till you're crying about it, like there is
Yes.
such a deeper relief that comes from that.
Yes.
You're
Absolutely.
released from the prison of that feeling, I think that, and that's why I hate when audiences turn on you.
Like,
when you're
"Aw,"
like, yes. And then you're like, oh, well, I'm telling you, I'm fine. So I don't know why I actually can't stand that you have actually made me feel bad about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's nothing, I don't think it's that crazy, actually.
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I love like those. I'm thinking of like the old 17 magazines when they would have like the embarrassing story section, and you always read it, and it's like a girl, she like goes poop at her boyfriend's parents' house, and then it doesn't flush. She throws it out the window, and it's like on the sunroof of the basement or something. Those are so hilarious, and just like telling us embarrassing story like that, and to have people laugh along with you. It's like we've all had to plunge a hotel bathroom. Okay.
Yeah.
You just unlocked such a memory for me. Like I'm trying to remember. No, just about that like YM or like was it most mortifying? There was like a title to that segment, or maybe it was Sassy magazine. Do you guys remember that?
Oh, Sassy.
Sassy.
Yes.
I'm really sassy,
So
but
fun.
YM did have, and it was a lot of stuff about periods. Meaning,
lot of
like
period
I was on
stuff.
it.
Yes.
I went to the beach with my boyfriend, and he was like, "Hey, what's that?" And it was my tampon string hanging out of my bathing
Totally,
suit, and he pulls it, which I actually I can actually see a guy being that stupid. Like I was at a show the other day, and a guy didn't know what a panty liner was.
Yeah.
And I actually thought that was weird, but maybe he could be gay and his only relationships are men or something.
Or maybe he's living under a rock.
Yeah, but I feel
Yeah.
like it's at least it's out there in the zeitgeist somehow.
Yeah, and also like put it together in your mind.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a compound word. A panty liner. Like, what do you think it could be?
That's such a gross word for it. Now that you just said it out loud, I'm like, why do they have to humiliate us
know,
by
it's like
calling
a
it a
pool
panty
liner.
liner?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I wouldn't
just call
even
it a
know.
tiny diaper.
Just call it a little bit. It's just for a little
bit. It's a little
for a
bit.
little bit for the extra.
Yeah, just a light flow.
I had a terrible, embarrassing thing one time that happened. I was at an open mic peeing, of course, and like in these bar bathrooms, you're like squatting, like trying not to touch, but also not sprinkle because you're a citizen, a concerned citizen, and all of a sudden it's like the bathroom's just opening and everyone's just turning. You're like, hi,
Oh God.
hi, and then now here I'm up doing my jokes about feminism.
Yeah.
5 minutes later. And that's one that, I always get like the cringe flashbacks.
Shame spiral.
I'm freaking out. Can you hand me my water, Lex?
So how long have you been doing Shame Spiral for?
Good save.
Thank you.
Moving along.
We just
Katie recover. I'll take over.
we just it's just a few weeks past our 1 year anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah.
anything wild.
Wild.
You don't have to go maybe to save.
Can
it is
you-
a podcast. I know it's in a public forum, but you still.
Can you narrow it down? Like, what kind of wild are you thinking?
So okay. So let me like rephrase.
I'm back.
Okay,
Hi.
back.
Sorry about that. That was very shameful. Something was caught in my throat, and it's been happening a lot lately. But we've been backlogging episodes,
Yeah,
so
we're dry.
You're
talking
overtalked.
like
We need
100 hours.
Throat lube.
And quick side note on that, like, why is that so universally shameful when you like
Choke.
cough and choke or need a sip of water and your eyes start tearing? Like, why?
Yeah, because
I
people
feel
are
like it's so embarrassing.
Are you
And-
okay? Yeah, you're like, I'm fine. I just had something in my throat, but I did feel embarrassed. I felt
Right?
shame. I felt shame.
You felt just being like a slight human is
just being a
embarrassing.
human, it's the worst.
It is.
I was
It
at an
is
open mic
embarrassing.
once. I was at an open mic once. The guy goes up. He's doing his jokes. He falls down, and when people are like, okay, trying a bit, he passed out. And for like 45 seconds, I remember just being like, this bit is going long.
Oh my God.
And all of a sudden, everyone together was like, it's not a bit, and just runs for the guy to like prop him up, and this poor guy, he was like, okay, I don't know what happened. I'm just waking up to be surrounded by like 18 comedians. But
Wow.
yeah, but like, talk about a mortifying scenario. It's like, you can't help passing out, but
No. I've actually gotten to the point of like what I was talking earlier. So I have a weak pelvic floor, and when I go running, pee comes out. I had it last night, and in the past, this is the nice thing about getting older. I don't care. I will go run an errand with pee on my pants.
Sure.
That's
I love
that's
that.
the
It's bravery.
liberating. Yeah.
it's so brave.
It is.
But sometimes you think about that on stage is like, what's the worst thing that could happen to me? I could get explosive diarrhea and it comes out to my pant leg.
Oh my
I've
gosh.
thought about that before.
Like the airplane, the one on the airplane.
I've thought about that in the airplane
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, we've all had diarrhea on the airplane. Grow up. Grow up.
So, God, I hate when your ass is betraying you like that. And there's
Yeah.
nothing you can do. The out of controlness of that is what really
I would
makes
have
me nuts.
respect for Delta diarrhea. Is that who?
Yeah.
I may have just come up with that moniker.
I
for
love
them.
that.
What is Delta diarrhea?
There was a flight where it was believed to
You gotta get this
Lisbon,
person
to
on your
Spain, or
podcast.
Madrid or something. Yeah.
I do.
Their diarrhea was so out of control. It was on the plane, down the aisle of the plane, and people are like taking photos of it. And then they ended up having to reroute the plane and land back in Newark.
Was this recent?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because I saw this headline last week,
Yeah.
and usually I would click so fast, but I was really busy this last week, and I was like, I can't deal with
I
it.
don't have time for this trauma.
Save.
Yeah. But it's like, that's the type of diarrhea where it's like, there's a medical emergency, okay? We don't need to be shaming somebody like they're just pooping openly in the flight.
No one wants
when they're
this.
going
no
on
one
their.
asks for that.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
just like you're
Yeah.
going down, like 22nd Street and you see like, okay, someone's taking a poop there. Fine. That's fine.
But I'd love for that person to come forward and just own it.
Make $1 million as a reality TV
They
star.
would get so many TikTok
Oh
followers.
my gosh, go on Shark Tank.
I
Yeah.
know. Do a press conference and just talk about it openly. Like, well, I started the flight. It was normal. I did feel little rumblings in the beginning, and I was like, you know what? I can make this international flight, and I'm so sorry.
And buy my book.
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm going to go on TikTok and make a plea for that person to come on
yes.
Shame Spiral.
I definitely think that you should.
I'm going to.
But what in the world? So what are some of the cases? Like, what's
Oh,
the,
yeah, the wild.
umbrella
Yes.
of the shame spiral?
Oh, did you mean like the wildest stories that
Yes,
people
yes.
have brought? Okay, that makes sense. I was
Yes.
thinking like, what was wild, like interpersonally, but that's not
Yeah,
what
like,
you meant.
did you have a Chris McLover on your show that
Was
pulled-
anyone awful? Tell us everything.
I
Yeah.
will. I mean, people have brought some really good stories.
Yeah.
Like what are some of the craziest ones?
Well, some of the, not the ones that are on podcast, but like, thinking about like Adrian Brody apparently got kicked off SNL because he showed without letting anyone know, he put a Rastafarian wig on and did a Jamaican accent to introduce the band. And it was so weird and off-putting. But then you're like, do you think those people deal with shame? Like, some people don't deal with shame.
I mean,
some people are just like, every idea I think is great.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think
And
about
it's
this all the time.
fascinating.
It is because I think you're right. I think some people are so defended against it that it just can't get in at all. They're like they implicate the world around them.
Yes.
Like externalizing,
Yeah.
right?
And then some people like me take on all of it as
And
Yes.
other people's
and
cringe.
other people's
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm feeling shame for you in this moment.
Yes, I'm apologizing
Yes.
to you for you stepping on me.
Yep.
Do you ever
always.
get like the cringe flashbacks?
Always.
Oh my gosh, I was getting them
Always.
so bad. I get them when I'm really tired, which is like you're already kind of mentally vulnerable to bad spirits coming
Yes.
in. And they last Sunday, I was like, I'm going to Target, and I was going to have a great time, and
Yeah.
it was I was getting hit time after time and it was usually also it happens to me when I travel a lot because I think I'm repressing while I'm out there in the world, and
Well,
then
you're alone with your thoughts.
Yeah.
You're not on your phone. You're
Yeah.
in a moment, and that's where you're going. That's your happy place.
yes, I'm in my happy place,
Yeah.
and that's when they get
cringing.
me. Yeah.
That's right. You can't
Yeah.
ever be too happy.
Yes.
That's when they'll take you down.
It's so funny. I mean, I challenge them now. I'm like, okay, did everyone see me drop an Oreo and then eat it? No.
Yeah.
No. And if
But-
you did, who cares?
What?
Yeah.
What? I dropped an
I'm
Oreo on the
hungry.
bathroom floor and I had it.
It's all just so, it's like you can know intellectually how off it is, like how disproportionate the spiraling is. Like,
Yeah.
like that's such a thing I've learned in recovery, like the self-centeredness and just like the degree to which I think everybody is thinking about me and all of these horrible things about me is so huge. And they're not thinking about me at all. They're thinking about themselves. Like I know that intellectually.
Yes.
I really struggle to actually like do the next thing though, which is like try to shift my stance toward myself
Yes.
based on that information.
It's so hard.
It's so hard.
Well, sometimes I think that's where like humor comes in.
Yeah.
As the defense mechanism, as like, I think about that when I think of what's the worst thing that can happen to me in this moment, and then the next spot I have to help me deal with that. How can I handle this in a humorous way?
Oh, I love
and it's
that.
usually again just kind of like owning it. Like,
Yeah.
I shit my pants.
That is the best thing you can do, I think.
But
yeah.
I'll name him Ari Shafir. One time he went into the restroom after I went into the restroom, and afterwards he shit shamed me. And I was like this, are you shit shaming me? Like a basic human function?
Yeah.
Like your shit don't stink? But I was so like mortified and was like, you are not a good person.
Meanwhile, he
I will
thinks
say
he's
that.
just like joking around with
Yeah.
you, and you're like, you've undone years of work.
I am not
God.
one of your guy friends. Like,
Yeah.
I'm on keto right now.
Oh my God.
That's the thing I do think about, like being in a male space that's like a male space of comedy, right? Where, not to say that there's a lot more women and different people in comedy than it used to be like years ago when I started, when you started, but it's still a male space where it's like the rules are kind of governed in that way, where it's like, it's a hang with dudes, and like, I might make a fat joke, and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, I'm cool with everything.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm a fatty. Like, it's
God.
wild.
Yeah, you're like, I'm not one of your guy friends. And also, guy comics get self-conscious with that kind of humor as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between joking and bullying, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so dependent on the person receiving it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, like if you were a different person or had been even having a different day, like you might have been able, or from a different comic,
Exactly.
you might have been able to be like, I know that was brutal shit that I took.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in that moment with that person and where you were at, like it
I
was
wasn't
too
expecting
much.
it.
Yeah.
And I should have from him. Like, he's a good friend of
That's
mine,
his
but
whole thing.
that's his whole thing. But I was like, all right, that was a little a lot for you at that moment, or like I wasn't prepared for that.
And I'm waiting for my amends.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, now I've decided to pull a white woman on him, and anytime he does something heinous, like practical prank, I will call the cops on him.
Oh, wow.
That's the only
Yeah.
way to get back.
Yeah. I was like, well, I'm going to go one step further in my prank and get the law involved and see how funny you think that is.
Now, so you have the 2 kids at home, and how do you help them kind of grow dealing with their shame? Are they school age?
Yeah. So I have a daughter in kindergarten. She just started kindergarten.
Gosh, congratulations. That's a big step.
That's an age where things start.
Yes.
And then I have a
Feelings
2-year-old.
start.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's feelings. Definitely. There's feelings at 2 also. It's
Yeah.
wild. But there's not really abstraction yet.
Well, it's
My older daughter can more like, she can have a conversation a bit
Yes.
about what she's feeling and try to understand, what's happening.
Yes.
A little.
you
How do
feel
I-
so
I don't-
alone at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I am like so existentially angsty about the fact that my kids have to have a childhood.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, this is terrible. Like, that's what I feel sometimes when I just look at them. I'm like, I am so sorry that I did this to you, that I brought you here. Like, you're going to have to go through so much. There's nothing I can do my best. It's not going to be enough.
right.
Yeah.
It's a huge job.
Yeah.
Well, it's just, it's heartbreaking because you see them trying to now they're trying to maneuver through the world.
Yes.
And you're seeing how they're trying to do it. And then you're like, oh, I don't know what to tell you.
I know.
You just have to put one step forward, like keep moving. Yeah.
Did she have a hard day, like going to the first kindergarten?
She actually didn't. She
That's
has
great.
been,
Oh, very
she's sort of
nice.
changing. Like, she used to be very reserved, like in groups, and
Yes.
then really goofy and wild at home. But she's starting to get more just externally present, and she's keeps coming home from kindergarten being like, it was great. So like, that's been really nice.
Exciting.
That's fun.
Yeah. And I don't know, like, I feel like trying to make them like, obviously when you're a parent, like, you're trying to prevent primarily them from having the experiences you had.
Yeah.
Yes.
That like turned you into a comedian, you know what I mean? And like, so I'm always like, anytime there's any hint of like, especially things that resonate with me, like when she's self-critical, or I can tell she's like keeping something to herself.
Yeah.
Or thinks that something was bad. Like, I'm always kind of like wanting to talk about it with her, but it's hard, especially it's hard if like that wasn't done with you when you were a kid. Like, I feel like I'm kind of like just like raw dogging it because I don't have a map for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that I'm a therapist. People always ask me that. I'm like, no, it's not the same. It's just like, it does not help at all.
I know I would think that maybe a little bit, I'm just assuming, is that am I giving you too much information? Because I think
Yes.
about that with when I'm become a parent of like, I know this is going to feel like I project my own things onto them. And then they're like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And
Yeah.
this is too much information. And you're like,
You're giving them a soliloquy about
Yeah.
your own issues, and they're like, okay, I'm 5.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
running in the other room now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All the time I give too much information, but then I'm like, well, it's better than no information.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so my kids, something I had anxiety about was like them ever feeling like surprised by the fact that there's a sperm donor involved.
Okay.
Because that people, there's a lot of politics around like use of sperm
Yeah.
donors and stuff.
we're in the same predicament. Yeah. Because
Oh.
I've got the egg donor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I
don't know what to do.
Okay, well, me neither, but I feel like I've thought about it for longer than you probably because I
Okay.
have a 5-year-old.
Yes, you're in that territory.
And my biggest fear, and from what I've like seen has been harmful for people who were donor conceived in some way, is like feeling like it was like a shock and it was kept from them.
Yes.
So from before my older daughter could understand, we have this book, highly recommend. It's called What Makes a Baby.
Gotcha.
Okay, I'll give you the info. I actually
please.
have an extra one if you want it.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I'll give it to you.
We do have a therapist in line for like helping
Oh.
us guide us through those moments, because we had to do it anyway through the fertility clinic.
Oh, okay.
To see like if we're prepared for this
Yes.
situation. So they were like, we're here if you need any questions.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
Because it is new territory, it feels like.
It's very new. There's not a lot of information. And so we were always just like telling her the story of how she was made. And we're kind of like, some people do this, some people do this. Like there's eggs and there's sperm and they're in different kinds of bodies, whatever. So she knows there's a donor.
Yes.
I don't think she understands what a donor is.
Gotcha.
But like I was giving her too much information recently and I was like, blah, blah, blah. And the donor and like whatever. And like different kinds of families and transgender, whatever. And she was like, cool. Can I? And then she's like, can I have a cheese stick? And I was like,
yeah. And there's a paper cup. Yeah. And he puts it in there. And
like it was just, I was like, okay, yeah. But I think that's a good, like that actually made me feel better because I was like, this is at the level of can I have a cheese stick? Because it's like nothing to her.
Yes.
Great.
Because she's always known.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel good. But it's very scary. I'm still worried she's going to like.
Well, there's another comic I've seen. She's a sperm donor baby, and she had bitterness towards it.
I know. Yeah. I've seen her TikToks have struck fear into my heart.
Same.
You as well?
It's like your reality is like being ripped away from you. You know, it's like when you learn that Santa Claus isn't real, for me it was 7 and it was pretty devastating.
It's still
a paradigm
is.
shift.
Whimsy is taken out of your life.
Yeah, that's it. And then imagine that just exponentially in your 30s.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
I mean, like I don't allow myself to do it anymore, but there was a period when I first came upon this comedian, and nothing against this comedian at all.
No, nothing at all.
And I understand where she's coming from.
Because her background probably might be different since she's in her 20s to 30s.
I think so. And she found out later.
Yes.
But there was a period, even all of those details known to me, I would watch her TikToks like just to hurt myself. Like,
Oh my gosh,
like watch them and be like, I'm terrible for doing this. You know?
I fucked with nature. Yeah.
That's so great. I know it's like, you can put all the comedy that you want out in the world and people will self-mutilate with it.
They will. They will. And she's not even talking about like it's like her platform. It's about like the systemic issues around sperm donation and all of it. So it's not like we have been intentional. I'm sure you guys were intentional, but it still really freaked me out.
Yeah, because you think about it, but then you're like, did I think about everything?
Yeah.
And you don't know until you cross those bridges.
I know.
And then that's why we were talking about like, it's been kind of weird. I've been try to make jokes about it on stage, and I've decided to take them off the table because I think I'm in a weird, I think some people still get weirded out by it. And then I haven't even taken it on the road.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I don't know how they're going to go with that in Ohio.
yeah,
Shout out to our Ohio listeners.
well, it's just controversial. And then I have friends that are adopted. And so it makes it like, well, it had nothing to do with what your life is, why I made the choices for what was good for our family.
Yeah.
And so I've just decided to not fuck with it that much.
I like the idea of you kind of never tell him until he's like 30, and then you're like, well, I actually told you right away. I told you right when you were born. I guess
remember.
It's not on me that you don't remember.
No, I mean, I literally told you right away.
Yeah.
Or like you're also like taking
Just gaslight them.
Yeah, I told you.
I didn't tell you? I told
in
you.
the NICU. Remember?
Yeah.
Or like also taking you're like, I'm just taking it all down off the internet because I don't want him to stumble across it at 5 when we give him his own phone.
Yes.
And let him run wild out there in YouTube.
Yes. Oh my God.
Well, that was the other thing I was worried about is like later on, if I had jokes about the way he was conceived, is that fair to him to know
Right.
his birth story? But
it's,
you
but
know,
it's your story too.
it is. And
That's
then,
true.
like, I also feel like heteronormative always talk about have sex all the
Yeah,
time
they
and
do.
conceiving babies all the time, and then that's the norm. So why can't we talk about
You're right. We should.
our journey?
We can.
Ellie, do you carry your kids?
Yeah, so I have 2. The first one we did IUI, where they just like they inserted the sperm through a intrauterine catheter.
Okay.
And then
Then it fertilizes your.
fertilize. So Goldie, my daughter, that she is from my egg and our sperm donor.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And then Birdie, my 2-year-old, we did reciprocal IVF. So my husband's a trans man. So he like majorly took one for the team, went off testosterone, went through
Wow.
the retrieval part of IVF, got some eggs, and he was 41 when he did that. So it took a minute.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
like, yeah.
How many
and
retrievals?
3. And it was during like,
But you do get to do fentanyl, which I've learned. I'm like, plus side.
and he is also in recovery and has been forever.
Oh my
and
gosh.
he was like I kept being like, honey, it's retrieval day. Are you okay? And he's like, I can't wait till they make me pass out.
Get the free laps. Get your free laps.
Such a free lapse. But and then so we then used Basil, my husband's egg, with the same sperm donor, and I carried her.
Okay.
So I carried both, but I'm only like genetically related to my older daughter.
Gotcha.
Oh, but that's
Yeah.
nice. So they're related
But
to
my
each other.
husband's-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone's entwined.
I love
Everyone's
it. It's a modern
entwined.
family.
Yeah.
It is a modern
Yes.
family. One of my big fears, which I don't know that I've talked to any other comics who've gone through IVF. So I'm specifically interested in if you've had this scary thought, Sarah.
Okay.
If you haven't, I'm sorry to put it into your mind.
No worries.
But one of my biggest fears is like, so Birdie, my little daughter, because I'm not genetically related to her, sometimes I picture her as a teenager being really mad at me and going, "You're not even my real mother." You've thought about that?
I've already had it. I have it almost every single time I'm in the shower where I'm like, I know they don't mean it or they won't in that moment, but I know that it will be used as a tactic.
Yeah.
Because that's how my brain works.
I know. That's what you would.
I
It's
would
the
go
thing that
low
hurts
blow.
the most.
Yeah.
And that is just such a clear target. Like
Yes.
it's right
Yeah.
there for the taking.
It's my vulnerability.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they don't go for it, they're stupid.
Yeah. If they don't go for it, we have fucked up in some way because they should feel free to hurt us. Yes. That means that they're healthy. Yeah.
Well, because at a certain age, every kid from 15 to about 25 are the meanest people
So mean.
ever. And like, I've thought about it where people are like, were we that way? And you're like, yes, you didn't know that you were. You thought you were being funny, but you're actually being very vicious.
Yes.
And-
And you were vandalizing a home in the neighborhood as a joke.
Well, I just think of some of the low blows
Oh,
that
sorry.
I've
Sorry. We
had.
know what that is. That's my birth control alarm, and it goes off every show. And I never take it. We're testing the waters.
What's that about, Katie?
I don't know. It's never by me when it goes off. And I'm like, you know what? I'm 37. I've never been pregnant. And now I'm kind of like, is there anything up there? Is there anything up there?
Are you like kind of quasi intentionally playing fast and loose?
I was saying this to someone. I'm like,
that's a very fun game.
right. A little Russian roulette. It's kind of like I felt putting so much pressure on myself if I would have kids. And last year, right when I turned 36, I was like, I'm going to take a year to decide if I want to have kids. If I decide in the year, then I'm going to go for it. And about a month later, I went into such a breakdown because the stress and the pressure that I put on myself. I was just crying. I went with my boyfriend. We were out crying, sobbing, crying. And like, no, I'm not ready. He's like, okay. I didn't involve him in this, by the way. Like, I never even told him about it. And so now I also feel like, that's the beauty of an accident is that just rip the choice away from me.
Totally.
Like, just let God decide. Let's be feudal about this. Like, will they, won't they? It's my eggs.
Will they, won't they? My eggs edition.
Yes.
I have 3 spare embryos.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
because we got 3 that like fertilized and were genetically tested as like likely to succeed, you know, and we just can't get we just haven't been able to get rid of them, but I am not getting pregnant again.
I get it. I can't throw away even like ticket stubs to a concert.
I know.
You're hoarding your eggs.
I'm hoarding the embryos and I don't but we don't want them, but it's like, and lately, like we've been trying to, like give them away, like we like to people, like being like, hey, like, anyone need an embryo? And we can't get rid of these fuckers.
I think it's great. Somebody is going to want those.
Well, there's a lot out there because I've watched docs
There
about
are.
it. And it's very fascinating.
Really?
Yes, because not to instill fear, but what ends up happening is, well, you get to say, but like there's these like hardcore Christian groups that get them. So it's almost like a way of conversion.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
That's
No.
wild. That is some dystopian
No,
futurism.
But you have a say.
Well,
in
this
your
is why I'm
in your
not.
embryos.
So we could donate them to the fertility clinic, and we are not doing that. And that is why, because I can't let them just be raised by
it could be a
stranger.
political. If you think about it, you're like, it's the perfect way to get an army.
Oh my
Absolutely.
God, it's
if I'm
fucked
going
up.
apocalyptic and sci-fi
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
this
that's
world.
kind of like a fun. Someone should write that pilot.
on it. But
Shotgun. But I want to give them. I would ideally like to give them to like queer people.
Yes.
Or like someone who like just wants a kid, doesn't have an embryo or doesn't have eggs, but I know who they are. You know.
Yeah, so
Yes.
you can track them down.
Yeah.
You know, keep an eye on
That's
it.
what we're hoping.
I love the idea even of just keeping it because they stay forever. Remember there was a baby born to a woman and the embryo was actually created before she was born.
Yeah.
It was one from like 1987.
90. Yeah.
And
That's so crazy.
isn't that wild? You know, maybe like one of your daughters one day is like, well, I need an embryo. I'm going to have my own daughter.
Oh my God.
My own
yeah.
sister.
And then they'll be. That's so gross. That's so fucked
No,
up.
maybe that's
No, that's no good.
science incest. I'm like, I think I invented something. No.
I would feel like, would they always feel like they had been born in the wrong time? Like, I wonder if there's something.
Yes.
Well-
they dress. They're like they're like 90s grunge.
Some evolution can happen. I mean, just think of how, I believe with the iPhone has probably changed our brain science. That's
Yeah.
probably gone to our DNA. And that's only in the span of 15 years,
Yeah.
16.
Yes.
That I feel like there would probably be differences from eggs from then or embryos from then than they are
Yeah.
now. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you
It
never
would be
know.
shocking.
Now, the people that can stay and work from home, those people are thriving. The
Yeah.
introverts, it is our time. And we're seizing it.